Once again, we gather in search of the truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger has been arrested. He was arrested and arraigned this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Bryan Kohberger was doing right before his arrest. Police says a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect. He was in pajamas and latest gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Pride, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
What is up, everybody? Happy New Year. It's New Year's Eve. 2024 is basically on its way out the door. Welcome 2025. Hopefully it's a much better year for everybody this upcoming year, and I hope 2024 was a good year for yourselves. It was an all right year for me. But hey, guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. We are having another show on Thursday. I'm going to be going over the Karen Reed interviews, and we're going to discuss basically that, what she says, what her answers are to the questions, and so on and so on. So you don't want to miss it. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Also, if, YouTube isn't your thing, you catch on for a little bit, but you prefer to have me on your phone or whatever the case may be in your headphones, and you're looking for a place like for a podcast, you can catch this show on any platform, whether it's Spotify or it used to be on pretty sure it's on Apple Podcasts, if there's still an Apple Podcast. There used to be a Google one, and that one's no longer a thing. So, but even if you told like Alexa or whatever, play the Drunk Turkey Show, it'll bring us up. But yeah, guys, thank you for tuning in. And today we're going to get back into the Bryan Kohberger case. We're going to talk about some documents that just got dropped over the last couple of days, and kind of go through it, to talk about what I think they are. Do forgive me if I sound kind of weird. I've been under the weather for the last couple of days, and still getting through it. But let's get into the content. Let's break it down. All righty. So Idaho website, obviously, there's been since when was it? It was like December 18th was the last time there was something. So since then, you have all this drop for Bryan Kohberger, mainly from the defense side as well. A lot of it is from the defense. And we'll go through some of the important ones. Now, the one that I think everybody's kind of pointing out to right now, and I want to thank Michelle, I think that's Michelle. I apologize if I say that wrong. Diodati, for becoming a newest member. Appreciate you. So the one that everybody's talking about is this motion to compel material and for sanctions. This is a document that was dropped by the defense team. It states here that Bryan Kohberger, through his attorneys of record, hereby move this honorable court for an order to compel complete expert disclosures from the state in this matter and request sanctions pursuant to ICR. So, basically, we kind of figured that they were going to be asking for some information from the state. In fact, I think it was maybe not the last time we were on here, but the time before, I did say that don't be surprised, or I expect a lot of documents going to be dropped by the defense in succession, in quick fashion here. And sure enough, that seems to have come true again. But this thing, they're basically saying that the state hasn't disclosed all their experts. And I think it's a little concerning. So let's continue. It says the bulk of the state's expert disclosures failed to include opinions and reports. These inadequate disclosures greatly prejudice for Mr. Kohberger, who is obligated to submit defense guilt phase expert disclosures by January 23, 2025. And I think that this is what this could possibly do is endanger the trial for starting in this August of 2025. I think that they're trying to push this and make another attempt to stall this out. But to be honest, this is all on the prosecution's fault too. They should have. I think they dropped the ball, in my opinion. The sanctions considered must be exclusion and experts, or at bare minimum, and order compelling proper disclosure and extension of Mr. Kohberger's January 23, 2025 deadline. Mr. Kohberger is prejudiced because he does not know what the expert evidence the state intends to elicit, does not know what expert evidence he must confront. And I think that he should have this, regardless if I think he did it or not. I truly do believe that Bryan Kohberger ended up committing this heinous crime. That's my opinion based on a lot of information, but whether he did or not, he has a right to have all this information, ahead of time so he can create a defense for himself. Prosecution is really dropping the ball on this one from this point of view. Obviously this is a biased report from the defense's side of things, and we've seen how certain things are manipulated with the defense as far as words can go, like total lack of DNA and not saying no DNA, things of that nature, right? I think that this could be it very well could be biased, with a defensive lens. Obviously it's coming from the defensive side, so let's just take it for what it is and what they're trying to say. But I do believe that they should get all that they are asking for, as far as expert witnesses, list of who they are and what their expertise is in and what their opinions are. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that should be something that should be there. All right, so the relevant facts: on December 18, 2024, the state disclosed 25 experts. Of those, only 5 included actual expert reports. Notably, not a single DNA expert opinion or report was produced. That doesn't mean that they don't have a DNA expert. I think this exactly means that they do have a DNA expert, but they haven't gotten his or her opinion or report. Now, December 18th was a little while ago. I mean, about 2 weeks ago. Should they have, when they presented the experts, shouldn't they have, their opinions and things of that nature? I think so. Like I said, I think this is dropping the ball on the prosecution side. But I find it odd how they say that. So there's 25 experts and only 5 included actual reports, meaning that 20 of the 5 didn't have their report or opinion yet. So they're highlighting that a single DNA expert opinion or report was produced. Now, I wonder if that means there's more than one DNA expert by saying not a single DNA expert opinion or report was produced. Could be just the way they say things. Instead, the state's disclosure refers to Bates' numbered pages and say, this disclosure is provided as an aid. It does not encompass all findings, impressions, conclusions, or materials related to the experts' involvement in this case. If further does not in any way limit the scope of the expert's testimony, further, this expert may testify about findings, impressions, or conclusions that he or she drew from the work of other experts who previously examined and handled the evidence in question. Okay. I wonder if what they're trying to say is that they have the same opinion as the ones that had examined it before. They're just kind of backing up the same opinions and thoughts. But I still think that should be there. That should be given to them. At least 3 digital forensic experts disclosed with list of 67 electronic devices. Wow. And third-party databases examined. Not a single report of what the 3 experts will opine relate to any specific device or data is disclosed. When I'm assuming the deadline was December 18th, which is when they dropped all this stuff off. I don't know, man. I hope the defense or the prosecution has since turned in all the information that they need. Argument. The expert issues are complex, involving many different facets of DNA. cellular data, cell tower coverage and drive testing, car identification, crime scene, blood spatter analysis, fingerprint analysis. Fingerprint analysis. Interesting. So I wonder whose fingerprints were left. Fingerprint analysis. That's a. I have a lot of questions about that. So now, if let's just say that there was Bryan Kohberger's DNA inside of that house on that knife sheath, then you also have a fingerprint somewhere in that area. Man, I wonder how the Kohberger is going to explain that one. You know, because that definitely puts him at the scene. If that's his fingerprint, it could be a fingerprint of one of the victims. If he took any kind of trophy or something like that, maybe there's a fingerprint on some sort of trophy. But fingerprint analysis. I want to know what you guys think about that. What are your thoughts and theories on the fingerprint analysis? I want to say thank you, Sirius Black, for being a 10-month membership. Appreciate you. Let's see. Forensic pathology and electronic device analysis of the suspect, victims, and alternative suspects and social media accounts. Now, there is a little footnote here. Mr. Kohberger does not include here a motion to strike the death penalty for failure to properly disclose experts without proper disclosure. That motion is forthcoming. So because of this, because they didn't get the information they needed in the proper amount of time, the defense is not going to, obviously not now, but in the future are going to require or request that the death penalty be removed because of this. I don't know how much of a leg they have to stand on. I think that when it came to the Lori Vallow case, that there was something similar there, right? Where something about evidence and time and extending it and something to the effect that they would consider doing the deal or the court on time as long as they take the death penalty off. We might end up seeing something like that here, where I think that's at least the intent of the defense is to say, hey, we'll do this when you want, but we want the DP taken off. That's kind of where I'm thinking this is going to be going. At issue, the state supplement response for request discovery regarding expert testimony and exhibits filed December 18, 2024. The disclosure lists 25 experts and provides curricula vitae 5 with expert opinion reports and others referencing Bates, number, pages, or items, but no opinion data or methodology. I'd really like to see what they're talking about. You know what I mean? It's all speculation as to like what was said or what is in there. It's purposefully somewhat vague. But I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. So what the state disclosures does not do is allow the rule, which is expert witnesses on written request of the defendant. The prosecutor must provide a written summary or report of any testimony that the state intends to introduce at trial or at hearings. Summary provided must describe the witness's opinions, the facts, data, and for those opinions and the witness's qualifications. And so it does fit that narrative there, that if you're going to have an expert witness, you have to be able to disclose all of these things prior to, I'm assuming, the deadline that they created for December 18th. Mr. Kohberger continues to waddle through a sea of discovery. The need for rule compliant expert disclosures is critical to his ability to prepare for his defense at trial. Mr. Kohberger is prejudiced by the state's failure, and it is impossible for him to confront unknown expert opinions with his own expert disclosures by January 23, 2025. So I think that's what's going to end up happening. They're going to be like, hey, either we push this thing back further or we strike the motion, the death penalty motion. I wouldn't be even surprised if they just go straight for the striking of the DP off the table. And then throughout that process, that's what it could come down to that. I mean, like I said, I think that's kind of happened in a few places. Lori Vallow was there in Idaho as well, in the same place. So just kind of think that that you might get a very similar response. How's it going, Claude? Thank you for becoming the newest member for Drunk Turkey DT Show. Still stands for the Drunk Turkey Show. It's just shortened. All righty. So this is the like I said, I think the prosecution dropped the ball. This is the motion for to compel material and for sanctions. So not a good look for the prosecution in this one, and not in my opinion. The next one is going to be the subpoena, duces tecum. Now, when this came out, we talked about it. It was on the case summary page. We disclosed what could be, what it couldn't be. I felt that this was something from the defense's side. Obviously, they were demanding some sort of evidence or witness to come before them, and this ends up being the case. So it's completely blank as far as who it's to. It is signed by the deputy clerk on the 26th day of December. And this is a subpoena that is going to a person. It says, you are hereby commanded that, laying aside all excuses, you appear in the district court of the Federal Judicial District of the state of Idaho in and for the county of Ada in Boise, Idaho on January 23rd, 2025 at 8 a.m. through the end of the hearing as a witness in the above entitled matter on the part of the defendant. So this is a defendant witness that they want to come in for this hearing, and they want him to be ready and available for the entire day, potentially to bring them in. Now, who could this be? Who could they be? Because obviously this isn't somebody that's going in on their free, by their own free will. So this is somebody who, in my opinion, probably isn't a pro Kohberger or pro defense in this case. We've heard about one person, Bethany Funke. She's one of the surviving witnesses. When it came down to, what was it? It was that one of those main hearings that they wanted that didn't go through, and they were doing a grand jury. Well, anyways, Bryan Kohberger's defense team was trying to get her to be subpoenaed into that court hearing as well as possible witness for exculpatory evidence. Now, the big rumor around everywhere I've heard or whatever is that what Bethany saw was a naked man outside. Now, where she was when she saw this naked man outside, and where that naked man outside, where he was outside is a question mark. I don't see how that excludes or is exculpatory for Bryan Kohberger. I get the argument. They're going to, the argument's going to be from the defensive side is that, well, Dylan saw somebody wearing clothes and Bethany saw somebody without clothes. Now it depends on who saw what, when, and in time, right? So if Bethany or if Dylan saw the figure in black walk towards the exit there, and then remember, it also said originally they were in their own rooms. Is it possible that Bethany went up to Dylan's room and in the process of going out there saw through the sliding glass door a naked man? I think that's possible. We also don't know where he parked, right? So is it possible that he being Bryan Kohberger, pulled up to the side of the house, walked to the front door to see if it was unlocked, and then proceeded around the back? Maybe perhaps he had left his clothes there. He got dressed into what he was supposed to, his kill suit or whatever, and he leaves the clothes that he's planning on coming back and putting on. Goes, checks the door, it's not locked. Goes around the building. Finds the sliding glass door open, enters, leaves through the sliding glass. Well, no, I don't think that makes sense because he would have just walked out the front door instead of going around the sliding glass door and then going all the way around. And then maybe perhaps that's where he's dressing in front of her room on the side or in the front of the house or something like that. But I really doubt that that's the possibility. I think that's probably like a 10% chance of that being possible. I really do think that more than likely she walked up the stairs, probably hearing the commotion of what was going on, and saw somebody outside. Right. So I don't know. I'm not sure, and from what angle did Bethany see somebody? It's dark. Witness testimony is kind of unreliable, and I've said this throughout this case and throughout the for instance, the Richard Allen case as well, where you had 3 witnesses see the same guy walk by, and all 3 describe a different clothing, height, and age, and things of that nature, because they're not really prepared to remember. Now, in this situation here, this is something a little bit different. However, it was dark. It was nighttime. This isn't a situation where you're not expecting, it's just like you're on a jogging trail and somebody walks by. So it's a little bit different where there's an intruder in the home. But dark, fear, a whole 9 yards, it's possible that they may have thought they saw something different. But I don't know. I mean, the witness testimony part is probably the lowest piece of evidence that's going to be there. All it does is say that it doesn't exclude Kohberger, right? Now, if, Bethany comes forward and says that, it could have been a Hispanic man that she saw, and that she thought that he was, darker skin. Well, that's different than what Bryan Kohberger is, right? And so, I mean, if it's something like that, it's possible, that because of how, fear, dark, looking at somebody who's probably outside in the dark. I don't know. And I'm not saying that's the case either. I'm just kind of speculating here, throwing ideas out. But I don't know exactly what or how, if she did see somebody without clothing, that automatically turns into it's not Bryan Kohberger. So this one will be interesting. I wonder if this hearing is going to be live. If so, we'll definitely be covering it. If not, we'll be covering it anyways. If as word comes out of what happens. All right, let's see. Go through some of these real quick. See if you had questions. Okay. What's going on, Jeremiah Sutton, back as a YouTube member? Appreciate you, my man. Let's see. Sirius coming in with a $10 super chat. Happy New Year to my favorite people. Happy New Year to you as well. Appreciate you being here. Happy New Year to everybody. Hope everybody has a fantastic New Year. All right, so I saw some questions that I started. Warning label Nina says, why have an expert analysis for a fingerprint unless it's defendant? That is true. That's a great point. Why would the prosecution have a fingerprint analysis expert if the fingerprint belonged to somebody else? Or, like I mentioned before, maybe there was an item that was in Bryan Kohberger's possession that had a fingerprint of one of the victims. Maybe that item belonged to one of the victims, which is why it had a fingerprint. So one of two ways. I mean, either way, if it's a prosecution expert witness, it's going to be because they are looking at the direction of as Bryan Kohberger is guilty, or that he did this. It's not going to be trying to say, oh yeah, we have an expert witness here for other DNA and other fingerprints. There's no case against Bryan Kohberger. Maybe the defense is trying to create reasonable doubt if someone else's fingerprint. And that was after I'd seen warning label Nina's. But yeah, I don't think defense would be trying to. I don't know if this defense that's a good move to try. Okay, Shane says, I don't know if BK is guilty or not. I just can't understand why the state is not putting it all on the table. If they have the correct killer, nothing has convinced me either way yet. I mean, yeah, I get it. I understand your point. I'm fairly positive that Bryan Kohberger admitted this crime. I am from the sense of perhaps like, I guess like a judge's point of view, where I'm like, all right, what are the facts? What's this? What's that? What's the evidence? I don't get swayed by, oh yeah, fancy words, total act, this, that, and the third. what are the facts? What is the evidence, and which way does it point? And obviously it's pointing in one direction, but I have no idea why the prosecution is sitting on their hands here. Warning label says Miss Chapin said Bethany yelled up the stairs for Ethan and them to STFU. I think she didn't call 911 at the time. They are going to use that as exculpatory. Well, let's just say that's true, right? Let's just say that Bethany yelled up, "Hey, be quiet," because she thought it was something else. How is that exculpatory to Bryan Kohberger? Unless she thought, like, yeah, I heard somebody and thought she recognized the voice. That could be something. But again, it's nighttime, going through a wall. You know, I don't know. I don't know how well that or how clear she would be hearing somebody talking to recognize someone. But maybe perhaps she thought she recognized somebody's voice or said something to the fact like it kind of sounded like that person. You know, those type of things maybe perhaps is something that she said. But I don't understand if she yelled out for them to be quiet, how that would have affected anything as far as it being Bryan Kohberger. All right. Let's go to the next one. I think this one might be one of my favorite ones. It is. This one is reference the Amazon account, federal grand jury subpoena, and warrants dated April 26, 2023 and May 8, 2023. Motion to suppress memorandum in support of the Amazon account, federal grand jury subpoenas, and warrants dated April 26. The state does make a somewhat interesting point about the differences between how this investigation might have looked before the digital age on page 4 and 5 in its brief. In essence, the state argues that the internet does not matter. It is the act of shopping that controls. Now, basically what they're saying is, and I didn't read everything up here because it really doesn't say much. I mean, it says, because I read through it and I only highlighted what we needed to do. It's talking about the IGG and all that other stuff beforehand, right? Like, oh yeah, you know, the IGG is what pointed at him, blah, 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 blah. Let's continue. It says the genie is out of the bottle. In the past, police would not have investigated every store that sells knives in the United States. They might have, given the sheer quantity of police involved in this case, covered a tri-state area, but time and cost would have prevented them from a massive search. Remember, this is for the Amazon warrant. Now, thanks to the wonders of the internet, the police are able to issue subpoenas and warrants to know a small number of massive knife retailers. One of those online retailers is Amazon, whose presence nationally and internationally does not need recitation here. The upshot, the police can now issue warrants to far fewer corporations. In other words, investigating shopping today is like shooting fish in a barrel. So they're basically saying it's not fair, right? That if this was back in the day, you know, you wouldn't be able to search all these places. The internet gives you that ability now, but now it's real easy to find somebody. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. This is why the third-party doctrine must be re-examined at the national level. If we, the people, do not wish to live under the ever-present eye of the government, something must be done. In Idaho, Kohberger's argument that something has already been done. So basically what they're saying here is that they're trying to make an argument of like privacy, basically, that because of how easy it is to go out there and get subpoenas for all different types of places, that they will that there's some sort of invasion of privacy of what somebody purchases. It doesn't really say that nothing was found there, right? Now they want to get Amazon thrown out. I wonder why. What is on Amazon that he wants thrown out? Is that maybe where he purchased the knife? You know, I think so. if there's nothing there, there's no searches, there's no, purchases or anything like that. The lack of evidence is evidence in the direction of the defense. The fact that they wouldn't be able to find those things is a benefit to the defense. The defense could come out and say, hey, my client has no connection to any knives. They've checked his searches. They checked his Amazon specifically. And that's the one that they're talking about here. Amazon. I don't think there's another retail store that they have a warrant for, especially when it comes to the potential for knives that the defense is wanting to get thrown out, right? It's the Amazon store. They want that one thrown out. So that just tells me, it kind of really, really does, hammer that note in that they did find the purchase of Bryan Kohberger purchasing the K-bar knife. If not, like I said, the absence of evidence is there. If you can say my client has no connection to any knives, such as a K-bar knife, there's no purchases, no searches, that's a big thing. Same thing with like the next one, which is for the ID search warrant for the defendant's person, the PA search warrant for the defendant's person, the search warrant for the Washington apartment, and a search warrant for the Hyundai Elantra. The lack of evidence is evidence for the defense in this situation. So, like, if you don't have a DNA or things that link up between Bryan Kohberger and the crime scene, why do you want these things thrown out? Wouldn't you want to be able to say, like, hey, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there is no DNA in the car that belongs to, one of the victims. Now, in my opinion, and I think I've said this a few times, that if somebody's going to want to get something thrown out, it's for one or two reasons. Well, obviously it's incriminating, but if they have something that benefits them, and they still want it thrown out, that means that whatever they have that benefits the defense in that moment is not stronger than whatever the prosecution has. It won't outweigh it. And so they rather get rid of it than have to argue that big point. I think that's what's happening here. And I think that this is a clear indication that there was some stuff found. Let me see. Kohberger requests the court suppress all evidence obtained by police via arrest warrant, the Idaho search warrant for Mr. Kohberger's person, the Pennsylvania search warrant for Mr. Kohberger's person, the search warrant for the defendant's apartment, and the Pennsylvania search warrant for the white Hyundai Elantra. Tells me they found something. Now, if it's not DNA, what could be bigger than DNA? That the fact that there is no DNA is less than, right? I don't know. That's kind of where I'm sitting on this one. Now, there was this longer one, and I'm not going to go through this one all because this one's quite lengthy. Most of it's actually only like 5 pages long. The rest of it is different things that were from previous documents. It's all from things that were done before, and it's relative to the pen trap and trace device. I need to look a little bit more into this on how that works. I'm not familiar with it, and so I'm going to hold off on that one. But yeah, you got the again, the cars. Well, let's go back to the beginning. They have his arrest. Then they have the search there at his parents' house, the Amazon, search, the Apple, AT&T first warrant, cell phone, USB, Google, pen trap, trace. They want those things taken out. It's crazy. They want everything taken out. They're saying Bryan Kohberger is innocent if you take all this stuff out of the equation. All right, let me answer some of you guys' questions, thoughts, before I call this one a show. Let's see. 911 calls are logged. Had there been an earlier 911 call, we all would have known about that. November. Yeah, no, the 911 calls are definitely logged. Not calling 911 thinking it's a frat boy fighting Ethan. Was Bethany at that party? I think she was, right? She was at the Sigma Chi. It's Dylan that nobody knows where she was at that night. Is that correct? I think so. Could it be that? Maybe. Maybe that's what she thought she heard because she was there and there was a situation there. If there was a situation there, I'm not even sure there was. Maybe she did think that that was possible. But again, what you thought in that moment, and then, as the evidence presents itself and as you investigate things can change, right? Somebody can think they hear something and then you go investigate that person and find out that they were somewhere else. And then you got to come up with something else. You got to figure out, does this person sound similar? Those type of things. But I don't know. I mean, that's a good possibility of what she could have saw or thought. I'm wondered what the door the delivery person used. BF room is right there. And that's a true story too. That's a good question. Was it the downstairs one? Was it the back one? I think it would have to depend on the instructions, right, on the DoorDash. Let's see. Did she really put fish in a barrel? Yep. Yeah, she sure did. Could Ann think the PCA is trying to nail BK by saying it's okay, I'm going to help you, was his voice, but maybe Bethany heard that too and recognized it as Ethan, but exculpatory thought. I don't think it is. I don't think that would be exculpatory. Then again, they also, this is why you got to be careful, because the defense said that, the fact that there's no video of a white Elantra leaving Moscow down 95 towards Blaine, Idaho is exculpatory that Bryan Kohberger went that direction when there's other routes to get there. There's a few other routes. I had marked down another route way earlier. When I looked at it back in the day, or back when that car showed up, remember it was on the with the iPhone in the background. It was a gas station. I said back then, I was like, oh, well, we got reports that they were now moving out of town and looking at other places. I said back then, I was like, look, up to this moment, when this came out, police didn't know or didn't think or have an idea that this guy was either from out of town or left out of town. They probably didn't have much footage of him leaving town. There's a couple of different places that you can see, and we did the maps and the whole 9 yards. And what I thought was, the cameras on the Moscow traffic lights, apparently they don't preserve, or whatever the case may be. Well, anyways, you could see those in different locations. I thought they ran all the time, and I thought those were something that you could grasp and hold up. And I assure you that whoever had committed this crime probably did some surveillance and knew or thought probably the same thing, and wasn't going to take a risk to run through those just in case it doesn't capture his car for some malfunction or whatever the case may have been. It would have been smart to do that. So I had actually mapped out back then a way he could have left from that area out of there to get past all of the cameras in the area. And once you do that, we did a whole run by, and there wasn't once the PCA came out, we did a whole check. I mean, I went through Google Earth on the entire trip, and I on first person view. And so I went, just kept hitting up and looking around, seeing if I can find cameras. And the first time that I found cameras was in Washington. I think it was Genesee? No, Uptown, Uniontown, or something like that, in Washington. And so long distance away. Let's see. All right. Yeah, I agree. Suzanne says, seriously doubt Ethan is saying, it's okay, I'm going to help you. That's the killer trying to convince someone to be quiet. Yeah. Amazon keeps incredibly detailed information, all click history. Yeah. The irony is, had BK just went to a sporting goods store in PA and paid cash, they probably couldn't trace or track the purchase, and BK collected knives. Yeah. Why does she reference in the past before the internet? Sounds like a BS move. Finding a purchase history isn't legal. Yeah, well, she's trying to point out like that the defense said that things aren't the same, and that yeah, you can basically find somebody by searching and getting subpoenas, and yeah, pretty clear that she really doesn't have an argument about it outside of saying that it's a violation of your privacy, basically. What you purchase, blah 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 blah. But I mean, if you have a subpoena, I mean, your privacy on whatever it is kind of goes out the window in those situations, right? So if you have a subpoena for like or a warrant to tap somebody's house or whatever the case may have been, you know what I mean? It's you're not gonna know. The state says the internet doesn't matter. It's an act of shopping that controls. Sounds like he may have looked at a K-bar knife but didn't buy, hence the shopping. I'm not sure. I'd have to read what the defense or the prosecution put up there, because getting cherry-picked information from one side is going to be pretty biased. We'll leave it at that. From whatever side it's going to be on. Why would somebody be naked outside? Maybe they showered afterwards. Well, the theory is that, well, what we do know is that a Dickies tag and receipt for a Dickies jumpsuit was found, or a Dickies tag was found in his apartment. That was collected as evidence. So the specificness behind the Dickies tag and the receipt has to do with something to do with the crime, obviously, right? You're not going to go and take up a receipt if the only thing that was purchased was gum and I don't know, a candy bar, right? How is that relevant? Unless you found like wrappers of the same gum or candy bar at the scene, right? There would have to be some sort of connection to collect that evidence in that manner, right? And so the police haven't found, from what I understand, that jumpsuit or that suit or whatever it was that he was wearing. So the thought is that for him to have had a lack of DNA in the car, that he may have ran outside, taken off his jumpsuit, put on some other clothes and got in his car, so that way he's not covered in blood and getting blood DNA everywhere in the car. You know what I'm saying? So it would be limiting the amount of cleanup he would have to do after the fact. So if he goes in there fully dressed in in the same clothes that he had, down to the booties or the shoes that were, had bloody footprints and things of that nature, that's going to leave a lot back behind, and a lot more of a thorough cleaning job that you would need. If you go in there and at least change your clothes, take off the gloves, take off the shoes, take off the pants, and put something different on, less likely you're probably still gonna have to clean the crap out of it, but it's not gonna be as much as if you gotten in there with a full on, suit. Let's see. With Amazon, the police would be able to not only see if a knife was purchased, but also what knives were looked at. It's a powerful tool for learning what people are shopping for, even if not purchased. That is true. But I really hope they find the purchase, because that would be a pretty big nail in the coffin, don't you think? You got the purchase of the knife that nobody can find. You have the purchase of the clothing that nobody can find. You have his DNA at that house. You have the knife sheath with his DNA at the house. You have his phone off during the commission of the crime, and his car on camera, basically. So down to the front license plate. There's so much evidence that proves that this guy did it. You know, the purchase of the K-bar knife would be a cherry on the top, in my opinion. I'll probably do this for like 5 more minutes. Dan, I told you that hearing was going to be asking for sanctions. Yeah. Yep. Yes, I think I do remember that. The PCA says it went west, if memory serves. What went west? Eyewitness testimony is the most unreliable. Yeah, no, it is. The delay in the 911 call has been read into too much. I hate the folks that keep making stuff up. It is what it is until it comes out in trial. FFS, I know what that means. It's sealed information. I agree. You know, the 911 call, it was weird, right? They didn't call anybody for 8 hours. But and I get it. I think you would hope that everybody in the same situation would. However, some people act differently under trauma and under stress. And you know, we had somebody call into the show, say that she was a victim of the home invasion. You know, some people broke into her house. She was hiding in the closet with her phone in her hand, and it didn't dawn on her to call the police. They ended up finding her, assaulting her, and then it was a while later after they left that she called friends, family, and then they called the police. And so, you know, losing 4 of your roommates in a house that you were in, you know, you survived. That's got to be traumatic. And some people handle trauma differently. I mean, one of the most traumatic things I would assume is somebody taking something that don't belong to you in the version of a SA. You know, do these folks that are harping on these victims for not calling 911 right away, are you the same ones that would harp on some SA victims who didn't call right away either, who maybe took a shower before, you know, doing a SANE test or a rape kit? You know what I'm saying? With a SANE nurse. Those things happen, and you don't blame the victims in those situations. Sometimes they call friends, sometimes they don't call anybody, sometimes they don't tell anyone. You know what I mean? And losing 4 people in the house that you were in has to be up there with the trauma. So I would just caution people about what other people do when you've never been in that situation. Let's see. Maybe they went front door and looked and they saw somebody running. It's possible. They only lived together for a few months. Yeah. What's going on? Artworks 2 comes on with $4.99. Happy 2025, everyone. Thank you, Daniel, for your excellent analysis. Thank you. I appreciate your support, your membership, and your donation. We appreciate you. Glad you can catch live, David. Glad you can catch live. I think she'd been drinking? Let's see. Are you talking about Bethany, Dylan, or the victims, or Ann Taylor? Just kidding. If it's Dylan and Bethany, I mean, it was a Saturday night. You know, they all got back in pretty late. You know, most of them were at places where alcohol was served. You know, Corner Club is a bar. You know, all of the victims that are on Kaylee and Maddie on video, you know, they seem to be heavily under the influence of alcohol. They're having a good time, but they were doing it safe. You know, they got a private driver to take them and bring them back. And, you know, they were doing the things right. Bethany and And Ethan and Xana were at a couple different parties. I think Ethan went to one party with his brother and his sister, and then they went to the Sigma Chi party a little bit later, and Xana was there and Bethany was there. It's probably why Bethany went, right? She probably went with Xana to wait for Ethan there, you know. Didn't want to be there by herself kind of thing. I don't know. Well, anyways, I don't know if we know where Dylan went that night, but getting all back at around 2 a.m., 1:45 a.m. ish. I would, in a college town, in a college night, party night, I would say, yeah, they probably were under the influence of alcohol. Oh, I know what you meant, my crime time. Great Dane Mom says, Dan, just think, if it was your baby girl, and yes, Greek family is close, it doesn't mean the delayed call is nefarious. Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't understand what you mean. If it was my daughter and Greek Rose family is close, doesn't mean the delayed call is nefarious. Yeah, no, I don't think it was. Oh yeah, no, I know what you mean. My bad. Thank you, Lovey13, for your $4.99 super sticker. I appreciate that. Has anyone checked to see if BK had his car listed for sale in PA? I don't think he had any intentions of driving that car back to Washington. Why did he just fly home for the holidays? I don't know if he was planning on selling it or not, but his car was in the garage, right? Now let's think about this, because that's based on the warrants that we saw, that they recovered his car was in the garage. Remember he said, did anybody else get arrested? His dad drove with him across country. They parked his car in the garage. His car isn't like a fancy car that you want to make sure no snow gets on. It's an older model Elantra. And, it's not like it's coming from a place that isn't snowy. And he'd only been there a couple months too. So I'm just curious as to why they would allow his car to be the one that's in the garage, not the parents' car. Right. And if he was in that garage the entire time, cleaning it, which is what some folks have speculated to have happened. I mean, one, he's trying to do it out of the presence and view of other people, but don't you think that kind of shows also that maybe perhaps the parents were implicated in a, trying to not necessarily hide him, but not disclose where he's at, hide the car in case somebody's watching him. They got pulled over twice in Indiana. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them thought at one point, especially even if Michael Kohberger, Bryan Kohberger's father, wasn't told by Bryan Kohberger that he committed the crime, and he only thought about it. Those two stops back to back must have raised the suspicion even more. So I think that the fact that he parked in the garage was very interesting. If the roommates didn't know what happened until the morning and they were so scared, why did they stick around the crime scene? How would they have known the threat was gone? Okay, so from what I understand is they contacted some people. They didn't want to leave the room that they were in. I don't know if they were in the same room or in separate rooms, but they didn't want to leave the rooms that they were in. And somebody came in, checked on them, and from what I understand, it was Hunter Johnson checked on the house, found the bodies of Xana and Ethan, got everybody out of the house, called 911. Bethany panicked, and once she found out that her thoughts were, or the potential thoughts that they had of somebody harming their friends were true, and overcame her, and she ended up passing out, which is why the ambulance was sent there, or one of them. I'm fairly positive it was also there for other reasons. Person down, unconscious. That's the way the call came in, from what I understand. And so, I think there's some pictures of Dylan walking around talking to some folks, but there's not one of Bethany that's out there. I think she was transported by EMS out of there. So Why stick around? I mean, I think they were just kind of scared, to be honest with you. I don't think they actually went in there and tried to open the door. I think they allowed Hunter Johnson to go and try to do that. BK is Afra. Not sure what that means. Let's see. Oh, BK is afraid of flying. Yeah. That could be one reason. Thank you for following us. We appreciate that, Patricia. I hope there's a call-in show soon. I have a lot to say about this. I can do something like that. I can definitely do something. I haven't done that in a while. Definitely can do that. Make sure you guys like and subscribe because I'll be putting that out there maybe next week. I got one already for Thursday, so I might be able to do that this weekend or next week. Let's see. Ann Taylor from day one has been concerned about the penalty phase. Like she knows he's guilty and putting away more time in the penalty phase because he has nothing, only technical issues. I agree. I mean, none of the arguments that the defense has come up with when it comes to Bryan Kohberger's defense team is saying that, he's innocent. Maybe this one might be the first one with the potential warrant for somebody to appear as a defendant, witness for the defense. Maybe that might be something that they think they can throw out there, but for the most part, like a lot of their questions have been like, oh, well, you didn't know that this car was a 2015 Hyundai Elantra until you arrested or you got Bryan Kohberger's name from the IGG. You shouldn't have gotten his name from there. That makes it invalid. It doesn't mean that he didn't commit the crime. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that his car doesn't match. It just what they're trying to say is they're trying to get it thrown out. Because if their argument was it didn't match, I mean, they would have their own experts to come forward and say, hey, the vehicle that we see on this camera is not a 2015 Elantra, or it's not Bryan Kohberger's Elantra because ABC, this, that, and a third, this sticker here, this, piece of, I don't know, reflector missing there, something to that fact that makes it unique, like not having a front license plate. Doesn't make it ultra unique, just the front license plate thing, but it does narrow it down a little bit, especially in an area where that is required. The second pair of victims did not call 911, did not try to help the first pair, and not even lock their own doors. The second pair didn't realize what had just happened. Maybe. I think that there is some truth there that they were messaging each other concerned. But I think they may have convinced themselves that there was nothing there. And I think somebody may have said that. I think I read that here somewhere. Interesting. I was in Europe when this occurred, and I remember a reporter said that 4 died, 1 was taken to the hospital. Perp took a shower. So I think the shower thing came up because in the PCA, Payne says that, before you get to the door, there's a bathroom. Before you get to Xana's door, there's a bathroom there. And because they mentioned the bathroom, there must be some sort of relevant evidence in that bathroom, and some people were connecting the dots that it could have been a shower. I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, if Bryan Kohberger would have taken a shower, there would have been a good possibility that, some of his hair, skin cells, things of that nature would have fallen into the drain. And it would have been a lot easier to catch him in that sense. Or you definitely would have used some of that evidence versus touch DNA. So, but it's interesting. We'll do this for about 1 more minute. BK is afraid of flying. Let's report on Fox. His dad flew out to help him drive to PA. On trip back from PA, law enforcement said he was talking to himself to calm down. Interesting. Let's see. when Joe Burrow's house was broken into, his female guest called her mom, not 911. Calling 911 can feel like a big deal. I really think BF and DM tried to reassure each other that it was nothing. I mean, I do too. I mean, who's the let's see. I forgot what I was going to say. I read another question. I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, here it is. This one. Yeah, I'm sure that they were reassuring each other. I mean, who's going to think that 4 people were just murdered in the house that you were in? You know, I mean, you're hearing sounds and things. You're not hearing screams. You're not hearing yelling, kicking, like as if somebody was fighting for their life. Dylan said it sounded like Kaylee was playing with her dog. The audio from 50 feet away, you hear a thud and some whispers and some whimpers. So, you know, I can understand the confusion in that situation, thinking that if you knew the gravity of what was taking place, that you probably are expecting to hear certain sounds. But the mere fact that majority of these victims were asleep when they were attacked and with a knife, with the ferocity and the location in which they were attacked at, would have been pretty impossible for them to scream. You know, I know a lot of people say that it's impossible that he could have done this in such a short period of time, like 12 minutes or so, or 11. I don't think that's the case. I mean, there was a guy that in Australia took the lives of 6 people, and he stabbed, I think, like 15 others, all in a span of 15 minutes. And I think like 12 minutes of that was him running from the police. So it don't take very long to strike somebody. It's very quickly. I mean, if you think about it, yeah, how many of you guys have seen, you know, movies about, or I know it's a movie, but like shows or anything like that where they show somebody getting stabbed as they're walking by? Those things are real. You know, those things do happen. You know, they're walking in a hallway and boom, 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 3 shots, and then they disperse. Nobody even knows what happened. You know, and that's a matter of seconds. You know, and that person's awake and probably not under the influence of alcohol. So when you think about those things as well, and you put those into perspective, makes it kind of easier to understand why it was done so quickly and without much DNA left behind, in my opinion, from the perpetrator. He could have stepped into the bathtub to change clothes, though. That's possible. If he did, you know, that Vans shoe re-stepped into something because there's a latent print going out the back. Could have got transfer DNA from the Vicks in there. Yeah. Nothing for nothing. Is Ann Taylor trying to impress this new judge? So far, don't think he's going for it. I don't think so either. What is the trial date again? I think it's in August of 2025, the 25th maybe. Proximity is important in assessing time. That was a small house. That's true too. You know, this is gonna be the last question I answer. That is exactly true. You know, the house wasn't very large. A lot of people think that this house was huge and it's 3 stories. I think it only had like 1,400 square feet or something like that for a 3-story house. It's not very much. You know, and I could be wrong about that. That's off my memory. I think that's what I had saw in the listing at one point. And from those that have been there in the area, they have also told me the same thing too. That house was tiny. It was not very big. And, you know, like I said last time, I think we did a little experiment where I said, you know, I'm going to count 8 minutes. Tell me how many times you can walk back and forth or how many times you can walk back and forth in front of your house. How long does that take? Actually time yourself walking, you know, because I think people are under the assumption that, you know, it's like, all right, 1 minute passed, 2 minute passed. And that's not the case. I mean, that's like 4 seconds in between 2. So, it's time goes a lot long. It can be a lot longer than you expect it to be. But I appreciate everybody. Zillow said 3,120 square feet. For real? I thought it said like 1,500. Maybe I saw it wrong. I got to check that out. Thanks, Jeff. But I appreciate you correcting me, man. I rather have the correct information out there. Either way, well, I mean, they didn't look like the rooms were very big for it to have had that much space. But then again, they did have some pretty good sized living areas in the second floor. I'm sure they had one on the first floor. The top bedrooms look so small, though. Even the second floor bedrooms didn't look that big. The bottom room bedrooms were probably the biggest, but nobody slept down there. It was crazy. Let's see. That might include the lot. It could. I don't know. I doubt it. Well, Happy New Year's, everybody. I hope you guys have a safe night. I'll be back on Thursday. It'll be 2025 the next time you guys see me. Appreciate everybody that is participating and talking tonight. We'll see you guys next time. Let's see. Yeah. People are still giving me information about the house. I love it. All right, I'll get that information out there about how big that house actually was. I could be very well wrong. I'm going off of a memory from a long time ago, and in all full disclosure, got a lot of brain fog going on right now. With I've been dealing with something. That's probably why my voice sounds so low, and they're having to take a lot of breaks in between. You guys have a great night. We'll see you guys next year. Thank you.